The iPhone 14 Pro Max seems to be the premium phone to buy this year. So what's it all about? Let's find out. And while we're finding out, I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Squarespace. So no kidding, Apple just announced the iPhone 14 Pro Max, and I am kind of a big fan of the Pro Max since the 12 series. So let's go through and see what they've done this year. Much like previous years, there's the iPhone 14 Pro and the 14 Pro Max. I've never been a big fan of the regular Pro models. They're a little too dense for me. I get that that's kind of a joke because the 14 Pro Max is so much bigger, but the way the Pro Max is fit in the hand, here, I'll show you. This is my 13 Pro Max. The way they fit in the hand just feels better for the extra weight than like the Pro. But there are a few really cool things that the new phone has that I'm really excited to talk about. One of the things right off the bat, we heard a lot of rumors about how Apple was going to redesign like the notch or the pill. I think it's pretty crazy that they had this physical limitation of wanting to fit in the camera, wanting to fit in their Face ID sensor, and making it as small as possible to have like the circle. And then they took that and they created a whole new like experience around using your phone and getting notifications, which is pretty wild. That's really awesome to see a design constraint breed innovation. I think that's kind of cool. They're calling this the Dynamic Island, which, can we all just agree, that seems like the name of a trashy TV dating show, Dynamic Island. So you can see here, it's going to show you charging, lots of notifications, all sorts of really cool things about it. And app developers will be able to take advantage of this in different ways. So your normal way that you would have the phone is just a little pill. If you're in a phone call, you'll see that size right there. And then if you're using like music or another specific kind of an app, it can expand even farther. That's just what I really like about Apple, is they can take a constraint, they can take something that everybody hates and then turn it into a cool new feature for innovation. We'll go through the breakthrough by breakthroughs. It's kind of a confusing way to say it. Apple, it's got a 31% smaller true depth camera system, re-engineered proximity sensors, advanced display algorithms, and animations designed to look and feel liquid. I really do kind of believe that, because if you remember from the 13, they introduced ProMotion onto their phone. So that 120 hertz has felt really smooth, but part of that is not just the screen refresh rate, it's also that the animations are designed to take advantage of that. So if they've upgraded the animations, I think the 14 Pro Max is going to look even better. And then another one of the new things coming to the Pro lineup is the always-on display. So your display will always be on, much like your new Apple Watch. You can see here that you'll be able to see a whole range of things by just glancing at your phone. Unless, as you can see here, if it's turned face down or in your pocket, the screen will totally shut off. And even with this always-on display, they're still saying you're going to get all-day battery life, which I believe, because the battery life on the 13 Pro Max is crazy. I assume the new A16 chip, which we'll talk about here in a second, is even more efficient. Lots of new widgets, lots of new fonts, all sorts of cool stuff because of iOS 16. Now, those widgets and fonts will be coming to all of the phones compatible with iOS 16, but the always-on display is going to stick with the 14 and the 14 Pro Max. And one of the crazy things they said during the presentation is the screen can go up to 2,000 nits of brightness. Holy crap, like it's gonna blind you when you're outside trying to look at the screen. That's really kind of cool that they were able to fit that out. So yep, Super XDR Retina display, peak 2,000 nits of brightness outdoors. And even the new MacBook Pros only go up to 1,600 nits of brightness doing HDR stuff. So that's not just in use, that's just only for HDR. And you can see here, okay, so it does get the same, the photos and HDR videos will get 1,600 nits of peak brightness too, much like the Pro Display XDR and the MacBook Pro 14 and 16. So that's gonna be a beautiful looking screen. ProMotion will still allow refresh rates from 10 to 120 hertz, which is pretty good. I like how that saves battery life when you're doing boring stuff, or it looks great when you're doing gaming or other intensive things. Thanks to today's sponsor, Squarespace, you can create your own very beautiful website. Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build a professional website, online store, or portfolio. It's easy to claim a domain/URL, create a custom site that matches your style, and bring your ideas to life. Head on over to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, head over to squarespace.com/everydaydad to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. We talked about the safety features in the iPhone 14 Plus video, so I'm not going to go too in-depth here, but we are going to quickly cover them in case you didn't watch that video. I think the emergency SOS via satellite is something remarkable. I have experience trying to set up satellite communications in austere environments, and it can be a real pain in the butt. Apple's been able to figure out how to do this with just your phone. So the phone, did they show the picture of it here? Yeah. Phone will tell you where to point the antenna to get the connection to the satellite. That's so awesome. And this will eventually be a paid subscription, but you get it free for 2 years with the iPhone 14, 14 Plus, 14 Pro, and 14 Pro Max. And then one of the really cool things, I really like how they're gonna do this. They're gonna allow Find My to tie in with the satellite communication. Why I like this is, I used to do a lot of adventure racing. I've done triathlons, I've done 12-hour races, stuff like that. My wife always likes to know where I'm at when I do those things, so I've had to buy a separate device called a Spot before, and it's just kind of a pain in the butt to have to juggle that subscription, and then you gotta log into that app to see where folks are. I really like that you can now do it from your phone, and you can, like in emergencies, you can text, but Find My will show people where you're at all the time. I love it. And then the big thing for me, this is probably the selling feature for me to buy one of the new Apple Watches or new iPhones, is the crash detection. So what this will do is, if you're in an emergency crash or something like that, your iPhone 14 Pro Max will make an emergency call for you. I love this. Again, I said this in the previous video, but I was in a motorcycle accident a few years ago, and if I hadn't had somebody immediately there on scene, I would not have been able to make a call on my own. So it would have been nice if my phone could have done that for me. This is incredible. Again, as a dad, I will be making sure my son, when he starts getting a phone, he's not old enough to have a phone yet. He's still got a couple of years. When he gets a phone, he will have one that has something like crash detection, whether it's Apple or whatever. So it has, like, it'll see sudden shifts in speeds, abrupt changes in direction, cabin pressure changes. It's just really awesome. One of the main reasons people buy phones anymore is for the camera. And if you're buying the 14 Pro or Pro Max, you're really looking to get the best camera that Apple can get, or pretty much that anybody can get. And they had a lot to say about the new camera. One of which is there's now an all new 48 megapixel main camera with advanced quad pixel sensor. What does that mean? Who cares? It just basically, it means you'll get a lot more resolution for the megapixels. Now, one of the traps you can fall into with cameras as a camera person is more megapixels doesn't necessarily mean more better, but I think this will give Apple a lot of cool things that they can do because of the processors they have in their phones now. I think Apple, because of the power on hand, is going to wow us with what they've been able to do here. On the camera itself, so the new Pro camera adds a 2x optical quality telephoto to its zoom, so it should be about 77 millimeters. Okay, we talked about the quad pixel. It means a lot of fancy stuff. It just means the pictures are gonna look great. Cinematic mode is getting an update in that it will let you go up to 4K 30 frames per second now. Last year with the 13 series, it only did 1080p at 30 frames per second. 24 frames per second is more the filmmaker's frame rate, so that'll be good for people wanting to make movies on their phone. One of the cool camera things that I'm excited about is they call it action mode. What that does is it's going to take the image, it's going to crop in, use all of the sensors and the algorithms and machine learning that the phone's capable of, and it's going to crop in on that shot and digitally stabilize it for you. And look right here. I mean, look at how stable that is. We're going to have to see how it actually works when we get it in hand, and you might be like, well, they might just did that for the website. But if you've ever used a GoPro recently, their digital stabilization is great. And the iPhone has, again, way more processing power. I believe what they're able to do here. We can see the actual camera specs here. The main is 24 millimeters or 48 millimeters for the 2x telephoto because of the way they're doing those quad pixel sensors. It did say that they've got a lot better autofocus, so 100% focus pixels is kind of how, I'm not going to get into a big discussion on how camera sensors work, but cameras like Sony and Canon have what's called phase detection autofocus, where the autofocus pixels, for lack of a better word, are on the sensor itself. And it looks like that's what Apple's moved to. For the main camera, you get 100% focus pixels. For the telephoto, you get 3% focus pixels. And then for the ultra wide, 100%. Basically, your photos should be in focus from now on. And then let's talk about the A16 processor. Again, the 14 and the 14 Plus got the A15 from last year. The A16 Bionic has been saved for the bigger, badder boys. So it's got a 6-core CPU, much like last year, 5-core GPU, much like last year, but it should be faster across the board. But what does fast the phone really get you? What it gets you is longevity and access to all of these fancy like features and data algorithms and all of those cool features that you see. Those all take up processing power. The A15 is still the most powerful processor on the market that you can buy today. So as soon as this comes out, it's just going to be the best again, and it will get you longevity that will last well into the future. All-day battery life, I am so excited about this. Look at this, 29 hours of video playback on the iPhone 14 Pro Max. That's what else? That's the reason I buy the Pro Max, is to have this all-day battery life. I never worry about the battery life on my phones since I've switched to the Pro Max. I personally prefer smaller phones. If I could get a mini with 29 hours of battery life, I would, but you can't. Like, physically, in the physical universe we occupy, they can't fit a big enough battery in there for that. So we get stuck with this. But battery life is so important to me, I will get a bigger phone, and I love that it's 29 hours of battery life. The SIM card is also going away in the US. We will be doing eSIMs in the future, and I think, okay, those are all the overall features. Let's go to tech specs really quick and see if I missed anything. We can go from 128 gigabytes of storage up to 1 terabyte, which is that's a lot for a phone. 6.7-inch Super XDR Retina display, Dynamic Island. Somebody who's gonna get voted off Dynamic Island because they didn't get the rose, right? 2 million to 1 contrast ratio, 2000 nits peak brightness outdoors, incredible. Get ready for the pre-orders. The pre-orders will start at 8 a.m. Eastern on September 9th, and they will be available starting 9/16. Deep purple, gold, silver, space black. I'm getting silver this year because I think that looks incredible. 128 gigabytes of storage because that's the perfect amount of storage you need for a phone, and that will come to $10.99. If you do want the 1 terabyte of storage, that will be $15.99. But what about you? What are you excited about for the iPhone 14 Plus, Pro, or Pro Max? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video and you're curious to see what I think about the iPhone 14 Plus, which is the one to buy for regular people, you can click right here. Click, 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 click. Thanks for watching.